Namaste, truth seekers. Welcome to the channel. On the channel here, we are going to be talking about.
That's okay. It's okay. So we can start over from, you know.
Let's start over just 1 second because you're looking all goofy. I want you to say, well, I would say welcome to the channel, but I'm gonna say welcome to the channel. You can say welcome to the channel as well. Just
Yeah. All right, cool.
yeah. Okay, start over. This is start.
Yeah, it's good. Let's
It's
just
fine to record this. Let's just record this because I'm gonna say something about you. So,
go. It's all good.
okay. All right. Are we recording?
We are recording.
Okay. All right. Namaste, truth seekers. We're over here being all goofy. This is what happens when you try to do a podcast with your son. But welcome to the channel. So glad that you're here.
Welcome you all. Welcome to the channel. We are delighted to have you, and we thank you for choosing this frequency tonight.
Yes.
This morning.
So on the channel here, this is where we talk about life, love, decoding the matrix, spiritual sovereignty, and mastering manifestation. My name is Cameo.
My name is Aiden.
And this is an extension of the book, The Elephant in the Room, Understanding the Truth of Our Existence. Um, as well as it'll also be other channeled messages for the collective. Those who are waking up in a simulation can be tough. And the truth is never really hidden. It's just waiting for you to ask the right questions. So if you're ready to remember who you really are, reclaim your power, then you're in the right place. So we are going to get started. So, and I just want to say before we do get started that this is our, I guess, inaugural podcast. So we are just getting on here to try to add some additional flavor to the book, to add some additional explanation, to answer questions that I've been receiving from those who are reading the book. So over time, like I said, this is an extension of the book. So if you are reading the book, if you have read the book, great. If you have not, there are still opportunities to purchase the book. And if you choose not to purchase the book, or if you're not guided to purchase the book, you can still come here for a lot of really good information and guidance and direction. So we are going to be, as I said, this is our inaugural podcast. This is our first one. Um, and so over time, we'll be developing the format. I don't know what it's going to look like. Currently, I am broadcasting from Phoenix, Arizona, and making a mini pilgrimage to Sedona, where I love to go and be amongst the stars. Ayden, tell everyone where you're currently at and what you're currently doing.
Yes, I'm currently in Berkeley, California. I've been on a 2-month internship studying agriculture and water conservation here in California. It's been an awesome journey so far, and I'm glad to start here where the vibes are very high and I'm getting a lot of inspiration. So
Yeah,
today's topic is going to be, are you an NPC?
yeah.
And I feel like I've been getting exposure to a lot of that since I've been.
Yes. And so, and like I said, this is an extension of the book. It may or may not go in order of each chapter. We may jump around. Like I said, I'm analyzing the various questions that people are asking. What's pertinent information, what really needs to be explained and kind of driven home. So yes, tonight we're going to talk about what is an NPC, and are you an NPC? Um, and if you are an NPC,
You can find out in chapter one or
so
chapter.
first of all, let's go ahead before we get started. We want to always start everything we do from a space of gratitude. So I just want to express that I am grateful to be a part of your journey, wherever that may be. If you're starting to wake up, if you feel like you've woken up, if you're long on the journey, if you're a light worker, if you've never heard of any, if you have no idea what I'm talking about, We're all on a journey, and I am grateful and humbled to be a part of it.
Yes, it's a
Even
blessing.
what are you grateful for?
I'm grateful to share my journey. We're all a part of each other's journeys. That's kind of the big part of the message as well. I feel like we're going to touch on. Your life is a movie, and you're creating it every day. So, enjoy the background actors, enjoy the main characters, enjoy the temporary moments, enjoy, the overall theme of your life, and
Yeah.
learn the lesson that's in the movie.
And
So,
that's a good segue into what really kind of is an NPC. It's kind of like, are you the main character of this story that you're in this journey that you're living, or are you an actor in the background? Um, so First, I think we want to talk about because we're just going to dive right in. I'm not going to worry about, whenever you find this message, these messages, this information is timeless. So whenever you find it, um, there'll be some relevant information in it for you. But yeah, I want to talk about first, let's go ahead and read a little section from the book. We'll open up a little bit of word from the text. Um, and Aiden's just going to talk about read what is an NPC.
yep.
And
For
this can be found on page 71 of The Elephant in the Room.
yes. Earth is a portal, and in order to pass through that portal to the next level, you must pass levels like a school or a video game, however you choose to relate to it. It is a test and trial of ascension. Some are here clueless, like NPCs, non-player controlled, bumping around in the background of video games, but not the main character being controlled by an actual player in the game. The concept of the NPC mindset is not new. It traces back to ancient civilizations, particularly in Mesopotamian mythology, where such
Mhm.
beginnings were known
Well,
for.
let's pause there. Let's pause there first. You want to explain a little bit more for those who maybe aren't gamers. I think we've all kind of seen what video games look like, but explain just a little bit about what is an NPC in the background and as it relates to video games or
Right.
simulations.
Yeah, video games, simulations, they're all the same thing. They're always built on some type of programming or code. And so those background characters have a limited code. So they kind of do the same things. They can only do so much. They're kind of there to fill in like colors. You know what I'm saying? You are the controlled player. You're able to make, kind of have agency or whatnot of what's going on. But those background players are just there to, either get ran over, get killed, you know,
Just to kind of take up space,
take up space.
just to fill in the background.
Right. And sometimes that can
Yeah.
be annoying. Sometimes it can be, it just makes the game predictable, because you have these filler things to add some variability into the equation.
Hmm.
Make things interesting.
Um, so before we go into historically, let's talk about some of the traits and characteristics. So just like with video games, being that we are in a simulation, and if you are currently reading the book, you'll know what I'm talking about there. But as with any simulation, different characters and players have different traits and characteristics. So I want to just talk just a second. I've got a couple of notes on some of the characteristics of NPC identifiers. So generally speaking, the way I see an NPC is somebody who is not in control of themselves. So just like in a video game, they're just kind of bumping around in the background. They move with the culture, they move with whatever's going on. They're reactive. They're not proactive. They don't they don't really ask the deeper questions. They're just kind of bumping around in life, I guess you could say. You have these people that just constantly repeat the same slogans, the same cultural slogans and phrases over and over again. Um, People who consume a lot of information passively, like news, social media, various religious stuff, without even questioning the source. I see, every day, and let me just pause here and say too that um the elephant in the room, this podcast, the elephant room. I don't know if we've even given the podcast a name, but whatever. This is a accountability. This is a no judgment zone, but it is an accountability zone. So many of the things that I'm saying and many of the things that I'm talking about are things that I myself have also had to become aware of, certain behaviors, certain actions. Because we all kind of are born NPCs, we all get programmed, but it's up to you to kind of break out of that. But typically an NPC has no real like curiosity about self, about soul, or like the meaning behind their existence, so I'm betting and I'm hoping and praying that if you're here watching this video, um hopefully you're not doomed to be an NPC. That there's probably some hope for you there. But yeah, just people who live on routine, and then they resist, like growth opportunities. They defend a lot of systems, like we live in this matrix. If anybody's, I think I start the book out saying, if you haven't read or haven't watched that movie, The Matrix, lately, now's a good time. Go watch that, go watch that movie, with a different lens, with a different set of eyes. Um, but yeah, but we live in a matrix, and it's just system after system, and it's just all this stuff. And so you have these people who they do jobs and they do things and they just defend a system, without question. Um, Another sign that you might be an NPC is that you feel trapped, but you really don't know what you're trapped in, or what, you're probably obsessed with, and this is going to trigger a lot of people, but you're probably obsessed with like celebrity gossip, trends, all these superficial distractions. You're probably posting about, CEOs who cheat on their wives, like I don't know, you know what I'm saying? But you're posting about really irrelevant things. And I can guarantee that most NPCs are more focused on the lives of others than they are on self or any type of introspection. So
I would add Love Island. That is the new hot thing as well. They're posting about Love Island. That's a big red flag. But yeah,
what is Love Island? I don't
it's
watch
a
all this
new
stuff.
show. It's a new show that comes out almost every day. It's a summer thing. They send a bunch of people to Fiji, and what they do is it's basically Lust Island, and the whole idea is to get paired up with another person so you don't get voted off the island. And you go there with about 20 people, it's like 10 guys, 10 girls, and you all sleep in the same room. Everybody's in beds in the same room. It's very weird.
Mm.
You do these challenges where you're either like kissing each other or playing some game, and it's all this messiness, and you can switch up it's not, you don't have to be exclusive, and you're able to do all these things, and they have bombshells that they bring in. So it's a very interesting
Like
game.
someone's ex, or
No,
um
randoms. These are all randoms.
oh,
But then bring in new hot faces to entice, or they'll take the couples and split them up and send one to another island, and then they'll bring the bombshells to that island. Like, hey, now you're single. That relationship you had doesn't even mean nothing. They will tell them that, and then
it's
the
just a bunch
producer,
of tests. It's
yeah,
just like, and
it's a
that's really, I mean,
social
honestly,
experiment.
it sounds a lot like really what we go through. We go through so many different tests and different scenarios. And
And they're testing your
um
loyalty, they're testing your emotional stability, they're testing
mhm.
your ego a lot of times, and it gets really messy really fast. But anyways, I said all that to say that that's the new craze. Everybody's been watching it. It just ended, and people were so mad about the ending because their favorite couple, Shelly and Ace, got kicked off. But these people go on the show and they come back with millions of followers, just because they're out there with no phones. They're out there just isolated, and then there's all these voting things that go on, and they're getting all this information like, oh, America doesn't like this, America doesn't like that. And you get to watch their live because the show is being recorded as it's coming out. So week by week, like this is actually live kind of ish. So like
Mm.
the delay is
So
only
this is like live content, live.
yeah.
social
Like
media
your vote
entertainment
affects the
content.
next episode, like American Idol or like back in the day, like how that shit was.
Mm,
So
interesting.
very interesting.
Interesting.
It's a social experiment, not just on the people that are in the show, but the people watching.
Mhm.
Yes.
Well, there can be something learned from all of these things. And, here's the thing, with all the stuff and things that we do in the Matrix, there's nothing wrong with it if we're using it as tools to learn, to grow, and we recognize what it is. A
Right.
lot of people are just distracted and into this stuff, and um,
See the bigger picture.
yeah, like this is all there is. They can't and they can't function without it. They're addicted. They're drawn in.
Thing is, you can tell them immediately, like, hey, yeah, this is a social experiment. And they'll agree. They're like, oh, yeah, I bet it is. But then a few weeks in, now they're emotionally invested. They're tied in. They're stressed out. They're itching for that next episode. The show
Yeah,
comes out every day except for Wednesday and Saturday, and people still be tweaking out. Same thing you're talking about with
interesting.
the Starbucks and the extra caffeine. This is extra addicting. All the
Uh,
people are basically just in bikinis and shirtless in Fiji, just on this little, and they don't do anything all day besides look at each other and get horny and kiss and let me pull you for a chat. That's
yeah,
it.
the distractions used to be kind of subtle. Now it's just really just blatant.
They're
Like they're
playing this stuff at the
just
bars, mom. They cut off the sports this summer. They said no sports. We playing Love Island. That's what the people
we're watching reality TV, we're
did
watching
because it
people in
comes
real
out
life.
at
Yeah.
7 o'clock Eastern every day.
Yeah.
And so people are waiting for that. They like remember when people used to actually get together and watch TV, watch cable? No, they're getting together and watching Love Island, these social experiments. So who knows what's next? The money type of money grab that this was, and basically the winners get 100K. You're trying to make it to the end to get the 100K. Yeah,
Oh
let's.
yeah, there's always some. Yeah,
Yeah,
there's got
oh
to be a
yeah. It's not
motivation of
about
some
love.
kind. I mean, you
It's,
can practice. I mean, when it really comes down to it, human
only one
beings,
person gets the money.
most NPCs, there's nothing they won't do for the right dollar.
Right.
That's another sign, actually, of an NPC that, um, yeah, they'll do pretty much
We're not talking
anything.
about jobs. We're talking about usually things that undermine who you thought you were.
Undermine your self-respect and your dignity. People eat, I was watching some show the other day. I got caught up. And I can't remember what it was called, but anyway, they had to yeah, you had to eat a tarantula, you had to eat all, it was kind of like old,
Fear factor.
like revised Fear Factor. I remember that show Fear Factor. There's always some weird stuff you had to do, and you had to do it not because you were getting the money, just to stay in the running to get the money. It's not even that. So yeah, that's usually a strong sign of an NPC. Um, but yeah, an NPC is just a non-controlled player. You're not connected to your higher self. You're not connected to really anything. You're just down here moving around from thing to thing, from stimulus to stimulus.
Really at will of
Whatever.
the matrix and its cords and its strings that it's pulling on you. You have no ability to disconnect. You have no ability to pull back and reflect and kind of, look at things from a higher up perspective and not being so caught up and into it. Another side of
Mhm.
NPC is they get emotional about everything. Everything causes strife in their life. Everything, no matter if it's something related to them, whether it's something they saw on the news, something their friends going through, they get so emotionally charged about things. They usually live on either one's end of the spectrum or another.
Yeah. And
We're
I think the emotional part for a lot of people is when that's that connection to the matrix. If you watch the movie, there's a part when it's plugged in, it's got this like these plugs all in the back of the vertebrae, like every vertebrae has a plug. And to me, I just kind of representatively, to me, that's like our chakra systems. Like we're so connected to the matrix, we're so connected to what's going on that it affects our energies and it affects our chakras. And
head
so
down a little bit.
part of detaching from the matrix isn't that you just stop living, or you got to go off the grid, or anything weird like that. But it's just recognizing what isn't, detaching yourself, detaching your soul from the matrix. Like it's like detaching your chakras is like detaching your soul from the matrix. So like I used to get really emotional about a lot of things. I mean, me, bleeding heart. I would see anything happening, but now I understand. more so what's actually going on down here, the dynamics, why things are happening. And so I've been able to remove myself. I've observed the matrix and I do participate in it, from time to time, but for the most part, my chakras, my soul has detached from the matrix. So I'm not as moved by all of the good and the bad. I mean, there's a lot of good and bad going on the planet. A lot of wild. It's a great time to be alive, and it's for some, and it's not so great a time to be alive for others. And that just, and we'll talk later in another show about, um, you know, different things, geographical karmas and generational karmas and things like that, things that you may not have done in this life to necessarily deserve what you're going through. But trust and believe, you either asked for it, your soul called it in, or you did something in a past life. So, and that's just the harsh reality of it. I know, and I'm gonna pause parenthetically right now to say that there's a lot of what we're going to say here. This is the fraud department. So we vibrated a frequency of truth, and truth is a very strong frequency. It's a frequency that not everyone will be able to handle. Not everyone will be able to receive. Some of our egos will immediately want to shut down, what's being said, without question. So, and that's another sign of being an NPC is that, when you're presented with, information or truth, if you immediately shut it down, that's ego. That's your ego trying to protect itself,
Right.
because going through when you have been programmed a certain way for so long, and then you find out the truth and you find out more of, the rest of the information, or it's more information. I'm not gonna say the rest because there's always more to know. But when you find out more information and then you're like, it's hard. It's not easy. The quote unquote awakening, or I prefer to call it an activation process, but that process is not easy. It's very disruptive to your energy. It's very disruptive to your spirit, but it's a necessary evil for coming out, for coming out of the matrix, if that's what you want to do. Now some people want to come, some people are here just to be NPCs, and that's okay too.
Mhm.
That's fine too. But if you're on the cusp of, like trying to wake up and, different things, it's going to be a challenge. What are we about to say, Bubba?
No, I really wanted to break down the Matrix analogy with the human bodysuits being plugged into the Matrix on multiple levels and talking about the chakra.
Okay, yeah.
And you were kind of saying about the heavy heart. That's one of them. I was thinking about the root chakra, thinking about the food attachment, the sexual attachment, the like you said, the heart, the emotional attachment, whether it's to celebrities or
Mhm.
certain vices that the system just, makes abundant, whether it's quick access to things like,
Yeah.
money. You can break down some of the other chakras, but being able to kind of disconnect, so whether that's fasting, whether that's turning off the social media, whether that's going on a communication fast for your throat chakra, you know what I'm saying? Whether that's just doing different things to kind of pour back into you because the matrix is always going to suck you dry. You know what I'm saying? The hotter it gets, climate change, things,
Gonna take everything it's got from, yeah.
yeah,
The
there's
matrix, the
always more
matrix
there.
feeds the matrix. Part of the energy of the matrix is to feed on your energy.
Right.
And it wants you to give energy to certain things, to certain, and the less
Energy
energy, the more
harvesting.
energy you give to the matrix, the less you're giving to yourself or focusing on yourself.
Right.
Um,
There's the matrix and then there's your matrix. There's your inner matrix. There is something that when you close your eyes and you listen to yourself, that's you, homie. Hey, you can't run. You can
mhm.
you can get high, you can get drunk, you can eat till you pass out,
Smoke weed every
you can
day.
work all day, you can do all these things, but at the end of the day, it will always catch up to you. So
Mhm.
just go ahead and embrace it. Go ahead and dive in. And that's what we're here to bring you a little bit closer to, because that
Yeah.
is higher self.
Yeah. So yeah, so and I just wanted to just make a couple of other points before we move on to the next kind of segment here. I just wanted to make a couple of points. Sometimes it's easier to understand what something is based on its converse. So understanding its opposite or what it is not, um can help us in recognizing and identifying. And let me just say this too. I really don't want to label people NPCs,
NPC
because I don't
NPC
want that to turn into a derogatory term, the NPCs and the SPC, or the whatever, this and the that,
because it's all about
I don't want it to be
that adds
another
to
form of
division.
division, but there's a spectrum to everything. So, um, some people are being subjected to more NPC programming than others. Okay. And there's really not I don't know what we would call the opposite of an NPC. I don't like the term woke either. I don't like all these like kind of cultural, kind of cultural labels, but
They've been culturally
if you're not
gentrified.
if you're non-player controlled, I guess the opposite would be player controlled, or I guess you could say sovereign. I like the word sovereign, player controlled, NPC versus SPC. Um, but a sovereign player actually knows that they're inside the game, that they're playing the game. They know that they are playing a game and they choose to play the game with awareness.
And
Okay. An
intention.
NPC is not aware that this is a game or that this is a simulation. An NPC is probably going to be like, nah, like, you know what I'm saying? Or just think that this sounds totally crazy, like just totally just out of left field. Um, and sovereign players, they observe their thoughts, they question their beliefs, they update their programming when necessary. They don't run on code, they rewrite the code every, you know what I'm saying, when they get more information, they upgrade, they do something different, they switch it up. An NPC is probably going to do the same thing throughout their entire life
Yeah.
without a whole lot of uh
For example,
variety.
being able to experiment, being able to move about and try different things, and that freedom is only warranted by, trial and error. And so if you're not willing to go outside of the bounds that you've been exposed to, then that kind of warrants you to be and have NPC vibes. You know what I mean? Because we don't want to label one person as you are an NPC or you're not an NPC, but you can start to
because
exhibit
we're always
like
because we're
behavior.
always becoming something.
Yeah, becoming or changing, you're always moving closer or further away. So the more media you consume, and I even see it in myself sometimes, the more of certain things you consume, you start to see that reflected in you. And the more, diverse circles you're around, you see things start to change. So that's one thing I've noticed since I've been here at Berkeley. There's so many different, ideas and perspectives about, what the hell is going on here or where we should be going, for better or for
Yeah.
worse.
Yeah. And so couple other bullet points on NPCs versus, sovereign players is that NPCs are always going to wait for instruction. Your sovereign player controlled individuals are going to download intuition. They're going to kind of go within
And they're usually
and
leaders too.
figure out what they need to do. An NPC is just going to wait for someone to tell them what to do or tell them what they can and cannot do.
And when that doesn't
um
work out, they get mad at them instead of getting mad at themselves. And the fact that
Correct,
you even
because
get
yeah,
that.
exactly. And so like NPCs, they definitely fear the unknown. Where, a lot of sovereign players, they kind of run toward the danger, run toward, whatever it is. And NPCs usually stay on script. They usually don't like I said, they don't deviate a whole lot. Whoever they are and whatever they become, at whatever point in life, that's probably where they stay and where they remain. Whereas, sovereign players are master manifestors. They write their own script. They, you know, explore, expand, do different things with their life. And so, but yeah, but every person, um, the big truth is that every person starts out as an NPC. When you're born, you have no programming, like you have to be programmed in some way. You have to be learned, be taught. If a human baby is just left sitting there, they can't function. And whereas other animals are born and they can walk, they can worst case scenario, they can, hopefully figure it out. A human being can't figure it out from birth. They will just sit there and perish. They can't get food. They can't do, you know what I'm saying? We have to be fed everything. We have to be programmed how to, how to do, feel, think, and everything. So, and with that, we also get programmed as far as like our beliefs, which is a really big thing. And, it's not a judgment, it's just a starting point. That's where everybody starts. But the moment you begin to ask, whose voice is this? Why do I believe that? Like, where did this thought come? Where did this come from? What happens if I choose something different than what I've been programmed for? That's the moment that you start shifting out of, being an NPC. And like I said, it's a spectrum. There's a spectrum of consciousness and awareness, and um there's never a, oh, I'm conscious, or oh, now I'm this. No, it's always you know you're always growing, you're always becoming. The more you learn, the more there is to know. So um but yeah, so hopefully this podcast will be for people who want to break out of the NPC mindset, that NPC programming.
If
So
you're a light
yeah,
worker too,
hopefully.
because one of the reasons that we're doing this is to, serve everyone. It's good to recognize when you encounter an NPC and move accordingly. Don't try to do too much, do too fast, or get frustrated when they don't necessarily take on the information or adapt and absorb the same way you would or you may have in your journey. Everyone's journey is different.
Yeah.
So it's okay to kind of, focus on those that are, ready to make the switch, focus on those that are kind of on the cusp. If you look at it like people jumping over a sea of a big wall, you know what I'm saying? I don't know if anybody's watched like I don't know if it's like World War Z, but it's like the zombie movie. There's just this, everybody's climbing up like crabs in a bucket, and someone's about to jump out and they're about to see the ocean and it's about to be beautiful. So sometimes, like as a light worker, if you're like an angel around, you just gotta help the people that's almost there. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes that could be more efficient than trying to them up from the bottom.
Yeah. Yeah. And and I'll say this too, like I said, this is a game, this is a simulation. A lot of people don't realize that that's what's going on.
Use your
The
time and
book,
use your efficiency.
you can, yeah, if you're reading the book, you'll get it a little bit more. I go into a few more things, and we'll go into some more things throughout throughout the series, or what have you. Um one thing, if you don't like what's being said here, all I can say is, don't hate the player, hate the game. I didn't create the game. I just am letting you know what it is. So
And speaking of
uh
creating the game, do you want to move into the next part of the paragraph?
oh yeah, that part. Oh yeah, I'm gonna read that. Yes, I'll read the next portion of the text. So the concept of the NPC, or non-playable character, or non-player controlled mindset, is not new. It traces back to ancient civilizations, particularly in Mesopotamian mythology, where such beings were known as the Enkidu's. These beings were created to serve, follow orders, and maintain the system without question. The most famous of the Enkidu's comes from the Epic of Gilgamesh, one of the oldest known stories in human history. Enkidu, a wild man created by the gods, was designed to be a servant, strong but mindless, operating purely on instinct. It was only after encountering civilization and being civilized or programmed that he became a functionary of the system. The Enkidus were essentially the first designed workers, beings meant to serve the elite without the capacity for independent thought or action. So yeah, this is not, yeah, none of this is new. um and we'll probably go into in another podcast, I guess, about, and actually, no, I think in the book, I think I do reference, I think I send you, so one thing, good thing about this book is it's very interactive. There are a number of sections and chapters where I will send you to other people's podcasts, people that have already explained and broken a lot of these things down, so that I don't have to go into it. And it gives you different perspective, a different voice. You get to hear someone else talking about some of these things, or co-signing. But one thing, the last section I want to get into and talk about is is looping. So the final and one of the biggest things that you'll recognize, if you're an NPC or if you're still kind of like under NPC programming, is that you will be looping. You'll be on like this, it'll almost feel, well, from the outside looking in, people will look at you and think you're on some sort of hamster wheel. But if you've ever asked yourself, like, why do I keep going through this or that? Why do I keep attracting the same raggedy people or whatever into my life? Why do I have these same relationship experiences? So, and the thing is, a lot of people aren't stuck in life, they're just stuck in loops. And they're like repeating the same day, the same thoughts, the same energy over and over every day, but calling it normal. Just this is normal life.
And a lot
So
of
we
times
talk about, go
a lot
ahead.
of times the loop that they're stuck in sometimes too, where they feel like, oh, I just can't be successful or I can't make this happen, I can't make that happen, is because you haven't learned this one lesson that the universe keeps putting in front of you. And so they're going to keep stifling you in every direction, whether you turn left, right, go forwards or go backwards, you're going to keep bumping your head. And so
Yeah,
the best thing you can do is try to figure out what that lesson is and try to reverse engineer how to, figure it out. Or, you're going
right.
to use that same energy
Yeah.
from.
Yeah, and like people, there's so many different loops. Like some people live like the daily life loop where it's like wake up, work, come home, watch the same TV shows, go to sleep and repeat. Live for Friday, dread Monday every single week for decades, hitting snooze on both alarms, hitting snooze on your alarm and your inner calling. Just and a lot of people, like some of the stuff you were saying earlier, like is a part of like what people do to numb out, you know what I
Mhm.
mean? And in numbing out and all these other things they have going on and all these other things that they focus on and these distractions, these are things that prevent them from doing the inner work, doing the shadow work. And that's the sign of an NPC, is that you don't really address your inner self. And maybe I don't know, maybe there is no inner self. I don't know. Maybe
Right.
they're kind of
Either
void. They say some people are soulless or are devoid of actual souls, but
feel like some people are able to just, you tuned it out so well that you can't even go back to hearing it. It's like you blasted your ears with the maximum headphones. Now you can't hear anything. A hearing
right,
aid won't even help you. So,
right.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, yeah, so you feel triggered. Like a lot of people, they go through loops too, where they feel triggered by something. But then they don't go and heal that trigger. They just continue to be on this loop of being triggered. They keep choosing the same types of relationships, just in different bodies. Some people want to fight to be seen, but never really truly feel valued. They're just like kind of fighting to fit in. um they shame themselves, then they motivate themselves, then they crash back out and start all over again, never really doing or accomplishing anything. So there's just, if you're asking yourself, why do I keep going through this same loop? Why do I keep starting, not finishing, doing this, not that? They're like, you keep discipline. And usually when people are looping, NPC looping, they start to recognize that loop because they become disappointed in themselves. They start to wake up to like, wow, why am I doing this? Why can't I? You do have a motivation, you do have something within
Right.
that
It's an
wants to
internal
accomplish
battle.
things, but for some reason, you're just not, you're just like unconsciously participating in the matrix. You're following trends, feeling empty, buy something new, then repeat, watch news, feel fear, complain, scroll through memes, repeat. Like every day, you're just doing the same old thing. And nothing's changing, nothing's getting better. You're just flat, like you're just on this flat line. Put it like that. Like that's an NPC. An NPC is on a flat line.
Mhm. Yeah.
When you start to become sovereign, when you start to really activate, wake up, you start to elevate, you start to raise your vibrational frequency, you start to make choices that serve your highest good. You You not just decisions in life, but decisions about the food that you eat, the things that you listen to, like everything that consumption isn't just about food. Consumption is everything you hear and see and and take in through all of your senses. Um, so yeah, and then the other thing that I want people to, and we don't really have time to go. I don't want these. I don't know. Like I said, we're trying to figure out what these podcasts are going to look like, but I don't want them to get too long and drawn out. I want to kind of break up some of the information. But the other biggest loop that a lot of people are on is the loop of it's a fear loop. A loop of you know if you ever wonder, if you ever question, why am I afraid to do things that others aren't? Some people are afraid of water while other people just run and jump in. Some people are afraid of heights, other people are bungee jumping and skydiving, and feel exhilarated by it. So I know that I was not programmed with a spirit of fear. That's programming. You're programming to be afraid to do certain things. You're told that when you're young, that you're going to fail, so that creates a fear of failure. We have this. I talk in the book somewhere about the indoctrination of superiority, and that indoctrination um leads to not wanting to fail, not being okay with failure. I don't even really look at failure as a thing. Failure isn't even really a thing. It's just on the spectrum of success.
Mhm.
Part of it's just part of the process. It's just practice. I mean, failure is not really failure. It's just practice
Right, it's
for what it is that you
preparation for the
are.
win.
Yeah, but it's just preparation.
I think the problem is some people
So
they're counting too much. They're trying to keep the score. So they're counting how many L's, counting how many wins, counting how many of this, counting the likes, counting the comments, counting the reposts, counting your followers, counting your
mm,
pockets. You know what I mean? Trying to hold on to
yeah,
all this
but
stuff.
let me see. There's a quote on page. Let me see, because they said I have to do this. I have to. On page 13 of the book, preparedness reduces the amount of space in your mind that can be occupied by fear. So if you're prepared for things, you're not going to be afraid. Usually fear is because we don't know what's getting ready to happen. And it's like somehow we've been programmed to think the worst is probably going to happen, or, oh, well, let's not do this because we don't know what's going to happen. And that prevents a lot of people from doing a lot of things.
Right, but I look at it also because I think about things like a zombie apocalypse. You got the person with
This
the
apocalypse.
outhouse, so they got all the guns. You know what I'm saying? They're out there in the country, they got the gate, they got the truck. They think they prepared, right? But then you have that's physical preparedness, but then you got spiritual preparedness. The confidence and the knowingness that you're going to be protected and that everything's going to be all right. And even if it's not, then that's what it was meant to be. I'm going to be in the right place at
Yeah, if it's
the right
not,
time.
that's the experience that you called in.
Right. And so that allows you to be free up until that point, up until the zombies kicking down your door that, hey man, it is what it is.
Okay, where's the zombies coming from? Aiden?
I'm just saying, like, that's you said preparing
You're
for
losing me with the zombies.
I
I
mean,
mean, I feel like most humans and most NPCs are walking around like zombies. It's really,
right.
and I'm gonna be honest with you. Out of all the people on the planet who I do fear, or that do scare me, it's NPCs, because NPCs
I'll do anything.
are controllable. They're controllable. They can be used. They can be reprogrammed, controlled. They don't ask questions. And there's a lot more NPCs on the planet than there are sovereign players right now. When you watch a video game, there's a lot more people in the background than there are
Huge.
actual the two players, um, doing whatever they're doing. So, um, yeah, NPCs scare me. They really do. So we need everybody to wake up and get your shit together. Figure out what you need to be here doing. Quit being distracted by all these things. Just start getting focused on what we're really supposed to be here doing.
Don't
Because
do
it's
it for
not,
us. Don't
you know,
just
the way that the planet is going now, there's going to be less and less security for people, be it social security, uh, top flight security, whatever. That's all going away. Half the places, I was somewhere today, and they had 50 million cameras, and they said 80% of those cameras didn't even work. When I go somewhere, I feel more secure when I see a camera there, because I feel like, oh, if something happens, someone will see it, someone will know, someone will say something. No, it's just it's a false sense of security now. There's not even it doesn't even work. The camera doesn't even work.
Yeah. Whenever, think about whenever something happens, you lose something, you forgot something, something crazy happened, they go check the cameras. Like, the cameras don't work, homie.
No, it's never. Yeah, they
Not the
never
one.
had it. It never. It's a. It never works. But anyway, but the point is that I was just I got off on a tangent. The point is that the way that things are going on the planet, there's less and less security from from families, from government. Everything is drifting apart. Everything is moving more towards sovereignty and individual survival. And because of that, people, like, it really is time to get it together. Like, you're going to really have to go within, you're going to really have to figure your shit out and figure out how you need to move. Like, it's wild, it's about to get wild. So if you don't have a good grounding, if you don't have a good footing, if you haven't read this book and you don't know who you are as a person, you don't have an understand. Okay, that's not working. You don't have an understanding of your existence and who you are on this planet. If you're an inky dude, it's going to be hard for you. Like, I see what's going on. I experience what's going on as well, but I have an understanding of what's going on. I see everything for what it is. So it doesn't, I'm not going to say it doesn't bother me, but it doesn't affect me. I know there's a lot of change that has to happen. Sometimes things have to get shaken up before you can,
Right.
things have to get a little worse before they can get better, I guess you could say. So, when you understand what's going on, you understand who you are, how you fit into the puzzle, how you fit into that picture, um, you can move better. You can move on your own terms. Or you can keep being an NPC and just wait on direction, wait on the government, wait to figure out what they're gonna do, how they're gonna fix it, what stimulus you're gonna get for the inconvenience. So
And the idea that you
um
said about figuring out how to move, there's less security. I think the main thing that you can do, the idea that you telling people that there's going to be less security is probably stirring up some emotions and making you feel fearful. But the idea is moving in peace amongst all that. The people that move in peace are going to think more calmly, are going to be more rational, they're going to make better decisions when they're not frantically responding and reacting. That's one of the bullets I see we have up here for NPC, that react a lot. So as soon as somebody says this thing, you're gonna go do something else. It's easy to get you off your
you're not
pivot.
even gonna think about it. You're just gonna react. You're just
Yeah.
gonna go.
Remember that
Somebody
video
said
I
you
showed
you
you
saw
yesterday
something.
that
You saw something coming out on social media. Now you at the Target buying up all the toilet paper,
right,
clearing out the shelves.
right. But remember that video I showed you yesterday of that kid jumping off the stage and that rapper, remember he impaled himself on the gate? He knew he didn't have no space. That wasn't even a tall stage.
Whew, that was tough.
That was
Ooh,
NPC
that was
behavior.
hard to watch. Yeah, that
Very
was hard
hard.
to watch. And and let me just also say this before we wrap up this segment. Um, the whole NPC, the whole notion of an NPC, someone who just follows orders, it's not an NPC is not a stupid person. Okay, an
Oh
NPC, you
yeah.
can what did you I think you said the other day, you can have a
An
PhD and still
NPC
be an
have a
NPC. And you
PhD.
can
All
be an
right.
MD, be a PhD, have all the letters, and you can still be an NPC, unaware, bumping around. Some NPCs are very successful on the planet. Some NPCs are able to master the matrix and do things, and also the spiritual community as well. You have a lot of people in the spiritual community who, they're on a loop as well. Meditate, avoid shadow work, say light and love, and then loop again, or talk about karma and ignore their own patterns, or haven't healed. There's a lot of you find I've noticed a lot of like um light workers, like healers, Reiki practitioners, things like that. People that are yes, everybody can heal, but no, everybody should not be healing. Okay. Healing others. If and you have to be very careful when if you do go to like alternative healers and different things like that, or energy people who do energy work. You need to make sure that their energy is right, because
Gotta
what
audit
you
them.
don't yeah, what you don't want is somebody infusing their unhealed energy into you. So, and that just comes with discernment. And you can just you can catch a vibe. But that's one thing I wanted to say. This is a call out to the light worker community as well, that while a lot of them, us, I'll put myself in the mix, are out preaching and promoting love and light. A lot of people have not actually done their own healing. They know what needs to be done. Maybe they've identified it, but they have not actually they haven't actually done the work yet. So
Been that wallet.
so yeah. So yeah, so I just want to challenge everybody, just kind of in my own little wrap up. I just want to challenge everybody, take, be accountable, take responsibility for yourself. After a certain age, you are no longer a victim, in anything.
You are a
You just
participant.
you are a
You're not a victim,
participant,
you're a
and you are
participant.
someone here, having it, there's eight and a half, I don't know, close to 9 billion people now on the planet, all having individual experiences. So whatever experience you came here to have is just like if you go, like right now, if you go to like a virtual reality place, or to go have fun, you go there and you choose your experience that you want to have.
You can
You
choose the
choose
value.
like the level, you choose everything before you go in it.
Yeah.
So, and then you have to just work within the rules and the
You
boundaries,
don't know
and
exactly
whatever
what
it
it's
is
gonna
going there.
be.
So before you came to this planet, you
Right.
chose the life and the experience that you are here to have.
Right.
You're not a victim. Nobody's doing anything to you. It is on you to recognize what's going on, recognize why you're here, what experiences you're here to have, and to grow through those. Just like the escape room, the only way out is through. You gotta go on through it.
Yeah.
So, I guess there is an emergency button, I think, but
We don't, we don't
we
that.
won't talk about what the emergency button, the real life the Earth emergency button is. Some people might be triggered by that. Um, did you have any final words, Aiden, just for right now, just on NPCs and
Yeah.
um,
I
how
want
to
to say,
recognize
I
them?
think we've kind of touched on everything I wanted to hit, but I want to mainly say that being an NPC is a choice. It's a daily choice. It's an annual
Hmm.
choice, it's a monthly choice, whatever timeline you want to think about. But you always got to, like you said, audit yourself, reevaluate what you have going on. Not for me, not for you, but for the collective. Even telling you to do it for you, I feel like is even selfish. You're a part of a larger um, culmination of energy. Consciousness that you're contributing to. So please don't dilute it.
Yeah,
Don't wear it down. Don't be here in vain or act like this isn't a blessing and a wonderful opportunity to be,
yeah,
waking up every day. So that's all I
yeah.
really want to say. You do
Yeah,
it.
and just a couple of questions. I've got a few questions just for some self-reflection. Um, but when things that you can ask yourself, if you want to kind of start breaking down NPC, and these are just things that you can just kind of just go within, and just like, if you talk to yourself, you're talking to your higher self, and these are good things. Don't let anybody tell you that you're crazy if you talk to yourself. But you want to ask yourself, how much of my identity is based on someone else's expectations? How much
Ooh,
of that identity is based on what someone else told me I should do or I should be? Like, who told me what success looks like? And did I ever get to define that for myself? Okay. Ask yourself those questions, write it down if you need to. Um, and if nobody could see me or validate me, what would I still choose to do? Or what would I still choose to be? Ask yourself that. Um, And also, then the final question is, when I feel uncomfortable, do I explore it or do I shut down? When I feel triggered, do I explore it or do I shut down? When I feel a way, do I explore it or do I react?
And I want to add one thing to
That's
that,
it.
if you feel fancy. Start to identify the symptoms that you may feel. Do you feel a pit in your stomach? Does your chest tighten up? Does your heart start racing? Do you start to sweat? Do you start to crave things, whether it's smoking, drinking, eating,
You want to numb out.
TV? Yeah, do you want to run out of the environment that you're in? Do you want to just, just start to identify some of those things and, you might start to see a pattern. And that's what you got to
You
do.
want to run it. Yeah. Do you want to run and hide or do you face things head on?
Right. If you study
Um,
yourself, you'll find the source oftentimes a little bit quicker than just bumping around and you look waking up in the maze. Like, no,
and that's what's called self-reflection. Yeah, most NPCs are not self-reflective. So if you're starting to self-reflect, that's a very good sign. And you just want to ask yourself, am I the main character in my own story, or am I a background player in someone else's? And that's going to give you the answer. I will never tell you, people who engage with me for um guidance and counseling and things of that nature. I'm never going to tell you you're an NPC. I'm going to ask you the questions so that you can determine that for yourself.
right,
And that's all I have for today.
right. Yep. Thank you so much.
Namaste,
My,
namaste, namaste.
yes.
And for those of you who don't know, you always hear us yogis talking about namaste. Not what namaste literally means is the divine in me bows to the divine that is also in you. So I wish you a good week and light and love.
Peace out,
Peace.
y'all. Go get you a copy of The Elephant in the Room, the
Oh yeah,
redpill.com.
we'll put the links. We'll
Yeah.
put the links and everything
The most
into
shameless.
the pinned comments
Yeah.
so you can get the book so you can follow along with us. Like I said, this is our first video. I don't know what the format of the next video will be, what we'll be talking about, what we'll be doing, but yeah, stay tuned. Like, share, and subscribe. Hit that notification bell.
Ow. That's